everyone. We're going to get started in just a moment, waiting for people to filter in who are in the reading room. If you'd like, go ahead and write in the chat of where you are coming in from today. It's always very interesting to see where people are tuning in from. And, maybe if you're in Florida, I can have a little bit of jealousy for the sunshine that you've got, maybe. But okay, so Toronto, Ontario. Oh my goodness. Texas. We have some good ones. Burlington, Ontario. A lot of Canadians. Okay. Um, Dubai, Arkansas, Seattle. Oh my goodness. We have quite the group here. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Montreal, favorite place on earth. Love Montreal. But okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome everyone. I'm Elizabeth from Synder, and I'm going to be today's host for our session on Can You Trust AI with Your Books? Real talk from accounting pros. We're going to hear from them. And this conversation is based on our new 2025 AI Trends in Accounting report that we did here at Synder. And, we dug into how accountants are actually using automation and AI in their daily work, what's working, what's not, and, where things are headed. And today we're thrilled to partner with two incredible accounting leaders who are just, living this firsthand as it progresses. And we've got Helina Patience from Entreflow, and we've got Andria Radmacher from A Bigger Bottom Line. Thank you for being here today. And before we dive in, a quick note for everyone tuning in. The report that I mentioned is in the chat available for you right now. So if you want to open it, check it out while we're talking about it, although it's a bit lengthy, you can go ahead and look at that. And we also do have a bonus for Cinder specifically that you'll be getting at the end of the webinar. So stay tuned for that. And okay, now before we dive into all the data and discussions on it, I'd love for each of you to just briefly introduce yourselves. Ah, Helena, you're still muted. There we go.
I'm so muted. Okay. It's like I haven't done a webinar before. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So I'm Helina Patience. I'm the CEO and founder of Entreflow Consulting Group. We're based in Canada. I live in Victoria, as I mentioned. We've got a team all across the country, and we do high growth support or support with high growth companies. So bookkeeping, controllership, and fractional CFO work. Lots of software implementation work. So we were 100% cloud and 100% remote 10 years ago and have been using technology to help us be able to facilitate that. So, big lover of tech to help enable us to do better advisory work. And then we also have an arm that does HR work. So, we're a licensed recruitment agency and we do HR management with our clients. So, everything we can really to help them grow effectively in these wonderful times that we're in, the fun market changes that we're seeing every month. And that's a little bit about myself. I'll pass it over to Andrea.
Right on. Thanks, Helena. Yeah, so I'm Andrea Radmacher. I own A Bigger Bottom Line. I do a lot of the same stuff as Helena, but we're based out of California, but I'm worldwide, so we can help anybody across the states. We don't do tax, but we do help with a lot of the same things: CFO services, bookkeeping, streamlining your accounting, doing the online tech, and same thing like Helena was saying, we've been doing this for over 10 years. So a lot of the stuff is that might be new to you, and AI isn't really new to us. We've been doing it a while, and we're here to help the human. We're here to help the small business owner connect e-commerce solutions. I specialize in industries for e-commerce and in architecture and real estate. So those are some industries I'm really, really loving to drill down on, and loving Synder for the tools they have for our e-commerce clients. And yeah, really just trying to bring clarity to the chaos that's out there with so many tools and so many systems. We're trying to keep the human front and center. So that's a bit about me and my team.
Well, thank you both so much. And yes, clarity in the chaos is definitely, I think, what everyone is looking for, no matter the industry. And so, just truly diving headfirst into this report that we have, we found that automation is saving accountants, an average of about 8.3, 8.4 hours per month per team member, basically a full workday. And for larger teams, that means like, over 1,000 plus hours a year gained without adding headcount. And over half of finance teams also say that automation has just helped them cut, 3 to 5 days off of their month-end close, which I think is a pretty big deal. And so does that reflect what you're seeing in your own practice or among your clients?
Do you want to start with that? Or you want me to go first?
You go ahead. You go ahead.
All right. Um, you know, I think what's kind of news, like I was saying before, is that might be news to new accounting firms that haven't implemented a lot of this stuff. We are two firms that have been doing automation and using the early AI for years. So, I mean, we started seeing a lot of time savings many years ago. And there's still clients out there today that are using systems that can't automate. And I think for those, particular clients still doing a lot of stuff on desktop, there is a massive time savings that's absolutely related to that when they finally make the switch from desktop to online and they grant themselves this ability to get access to a lot of this automation. Now, on top of the automations and AI that we've had for many years, yes, in the last 2 years, things have gotten exceedingly better, but there's still the subjective things that are always there because they're related to a human question. And that stuff is still with us today. But as far as it speeding things up, I mean, absolutely. If you are doing things in a more desktop environment, you're going to see massive growth if you like allow a professional accounting firm to take you into the future and start getting these automation tools set up. So yeah, absolutely, it's a particular use case. And for those who have been online. Like if you've been online using online technology and you have some things connected, depending on the technology stack you have and depending on the team you have running behind that, you could see, yes, absolutely a lot more enhancement depending on what you're working with and who you're working with. So I
Mhm.
guess that's my answer to that.
Yeah, for sure. And just to echo that, same with us. Been using, cloud technology and automation. A lot of the tools that we use have had AI in them and machine learning for a long time. So I think one of the biggest massive shifts we had in our industry was when HubDoc and Dext came to the forefront here. They've been around for 15 to 20 years, or sorry, 10 to 15 years. Sorry, I looked this up, depending on which app. And that allowed us to really automate a lot of the bookkeeping, and the AI and machine learning in those tools have made a huge difference in us being able to not only audit proof our clients' books by having transaction level, or sorry, having the backup documents at the transaction level in the books, but also to help with speeding up the bookkeeping by, through the nature of the OCR technology, reading the documents and pre-filling the data entry for us. So now our roles as accountants has changed from data validation. Sorry, from data entry to data validation. So the role of the accountant has really changed a lot, especially for people doing AP. And those tools are there to really help us automate the work that we're doing, and those tools are have gotten a lot better. We started using both of them probably around 2017 or something like that, and just mind blown back then because we went from manually entering things into our software to getting data into systems reading the data, and now we're just validating it. That was a huge saving for us, and there's been just getting better and better. Now we're seeing there's a lot more focus on very niche apps having some level of AI intuitively built into them. So we're not there in being able to see massive time savings from every little instance. But on a
Right.
whole, all of them are doing a better job at getting us to where we need to get to faster. And I think just because we've been at this for so long, I'm very impatient
Yeah, me too.
about them moving a little bit faster so we can get some of the other, nuggets, especially on the analytics. And data quality and reporting side of things as well. So I'm excited to see where those, but definitely massive time savings. I think there's still a lot of, you mentioned desktop, Andrea, there's still a lot of people that are, still making that move from desktop to QuickBooks Online or Xero or other applications, online cloud software. But there's still a lot of people who are not using OCR tools, right? Which is really surprising to me because that's where you get a very big time saving. Yes, the accounting software has features in there as well. But being able to automate, if you've got a client with 400 receipts or bills every month, like that's massive, right? Um, so that's what I've seen over the last little while
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. It's amazing. We've been trying to get everybody to kind of move into the future, and it's amazing how we're still kind of in the background. I remember when the iPad came out, I thought all paper would go away, and look at us. I mean, it's like we're still we're still using a lot of the old systems because I think it just depends again. So wherever your business is, wherever the mindset is in the business, you may these a lot of these tools you're hearing about might seem groundbreaking, and for others it's like, well, it might have just not been ready for your time ready to get moved into these tools, but they've been here. And so it might be more time to move in with technicians and accountants that have been using these tools because we've had to become technology users. We've had to become major technology power users. And maybe the world doesn't really know that, is that that's something you should be leaning on your accountant for now, is we're here to not just enter the data, we're here to interpret it and to understand how data gets into your systems. And I'm a firm believer that a human should be overseeing that. There's lots of wonderful tools that we've been using, but two things, they're not quite there to fully trust, but they're helping us absolutely. They're absolutely helping us. They're empowering the human, and that's what you need. You need human oversight. I think it is a little tricky if this is like you're just now getting into the automation and things, but there is still a lot of businesses out there that haven't even given it a try yet. So definitely partner with somebody who's had some, time in the saddle there. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
No, thank you. It definitely, I was surprised to find out that automation was a big part of the accounting industry for years now, because it seems personally from, my time with marketing, automation, it's been here for a while, but not quite as long as it within accounting. So it definitely seems like a bit of a time saver, but it's not quite there yet. And you touched on accuracy and trust, which is the next point I kind of want to talk about because a report showed that, 92% of finance leaders, they believe that AI produces higher accuracy than manual methods. And, they say 90% of them say that AI-driven insights just outperform human judgment. And, that the audit trails and real-time visibility are just helping their team to reduce errors, which is very interesting that it's that high of a number, especially with AI versus automation. But as there's more AI tools coming out to take on accounting tasks, accuracy obviously becomes very critical because you do want a human at that standpoint. So, how confident are you guys in AI-driven accounting outputs? And, what does it take for you specifically, or maybe for your clients, to really trust those results when they're AI driven?
Yeah. So again, we've had we've had the ability to do AI level professional guessing for a long time, okay? And so I would say about 85% is great, and that's wonderful. It's a great guess, but I can't tell you how many times, I log in with a client into QuickBooks and you see the AI robot guessing on a transaction and it's straight up wrong. It's just wrong because it's the same subjective guessing we've had for a long time. Look, it's garbage in, garbage out. AI is going to give you really good outputs if you give it really good inputs. But it's always that subjective stuff that's up to the human to understand that it doesn't have yet. So, sure, you give AI some really great inputs. You got to know what those are. You got to know exactly what you're asking it. Then it can give you great outputs. And I think in the hands of professionals, AI and automation tools in the hands of professionals that know, human professionals that know the difference, it really helps them. It really helps with, okay, cool. Yeah, they got it pretty far. That's great. But it's this last 20%, this last 10% that is the most critical, that could make or break everything. that's where we're still needed because guess what? We've had these tools for a long time, and it's
Mm,
that last subjective 20% that still trips everybody up. I'd love it to be 100%. That'd be great. I'd get to focus a lot more on the high value interpretation for the client of now that we have the numbers just done, that was easy. Let's talk about the higher level stuff. But everything really is a baseline of good organized data that goes into well thought through organized bookkeeping,
mhm,
which, for just so many clients, it's not all there yet. It's a lot and it's great and thank goodness for that.
mhm.
But it's not that last home stretch. And you really still need that professional to come in. So I think if you're 100% trusting AI to do all your bookkeeping, you're like pretty much most of our clients that come to us for the first time saying things like, I think bookkeeping's pretty easy. I think it's pretty easy. I think I got it all pretty well sorted out, right, Helena? And then you look at their
You're
books.
like, no.
No,
Hard no.
easy, hard no. Easy for the software companies to sell that and easy in the hands of experts. Absolutely. It's made us more powerful. But guys, every single time I hear somebody say, yeah, I'm sure my books are going to be a real easy fix. It'll be real clean. Us pros, we find the stuff you just don't even know what to look for. But it's better. Yeah, absolutely. It's better, but
Better.
it's
Yeah.
not,
It,
it's not the whole
I think that it's increased data quality in many areas. If someone was manually doing certain types of work, or you're looking at so many transactions during the day, there's human error factor in all the work that we do, right? And so it's definitely helped to eliminate some issues there. But at the end of the day, there still needs to be some level of human validation. So somebody's got to review it and do a quick audit of the data and make sure that it's all okay, um, make sure that it makes sense. And I guess a really easy example I like to share with folks just in why we can't fully automate everything perfectly is just if you look at some of the vendors that a lot of people use, like Amazon, for instance, you can buy so many different things from Amazon. Knowing where that needs to go in the books is tricky without having the backup documentation, right? Um, and it's not necessarily going to be the same every time, right? There's also lots of complexity with accrual accounting. So we could, you know, um, have bills that are due way later than now. We could have bills that are, or, we have to prepay things, so the timing is all completely different. We have to get that in the books correctly. And on the invoicing side, I mean, I have clients who have all manner of chaos in their company where they might charge a client up front for a whole year. They might bill a different client every month. They might have another client they bill every quarter for the previous month. Might have them, twice a year for the last 6 months and the previous 6 months. Like it can be all over the place from a timing standpoint, and that's really tricky for AI to pick up unless you train it really, really well. And sometimes the effort to train is more than just doing it manually as a human, right? And so we're still kind of at this crossroads where we can't fully automate everything as much as we would love it. Like if we could wave a wand and I could just like, bam, all the books are clean, ready to go, that would make my life so much easier. We're just not there yet because at the end of the day, especially because we're both doing, fractional CFO work with our clients, like the data quality has to be way better than, normal standards. We're rolling forecasts off the data. It becomes very evident when something's gone into the wrong account or
thing.
things aren't looking correct. So the data quality is really important. AI is helping us get there faster, 100%. We're not 100% at that stage where we can trust it 100%, if that makes sense.
Right. I totally agree with that. And even speaking to like Amazon, I mean, there's connections in America, you can connect your Amazon account to QuickBooks now, and you could pull in that source document receipt, but it's subjective.
Yeah.
Why did you buy XYZ? You're not telling Amazon when you buy it that was meant for marketing, or that's meant to be an office supply, or that's
Yeah.
meant to be, partially an asset, partly that's not what Amazon or Walmart or any of the box stores are asking you to do when you go to checkout. So until the bookkeeper's at the checkout station, guys, it's the same stuff we've been dealing with for the last 10, 15 years and longer
Yeah.
because it's the human intention behind that transaction that gets us to do it right.
Yeah.
Sure, 85% of it we can guess pretty good with having AI to help us there. But all those transactions where there isn't a source document, the transaction reads 905,826 somewhere in Florida. I have no idea what you bought. Our bookkeepers don't. And AI will do the same thing that most of us do, which is just try to go research that transaction. And again, it's not going to give back the intention for it, right? So you might have a huge bulk of these in your uncategorized account on your financial that throws off your whole financial.
Yeah.
So you can trust it to a point, but you're gonna have to actually, number one, have a human helping with the last part. And I think the next step too is you still got to be part of the process. You have a responsibility as the owner of the company or the manager of the company to provide feedback on the questions that are inevitably there and to verify where things have gone. So that's the human part. That's the human part that, we got to trust and verify at the end. And like Helena said, we're only as good in our financial advisory as this data we get. It has to be high quality. If you're putting in your company all the bookkeeping, all the payroll, all the accrual-based accounting, which is, like Helena was saying, things that are, not so obvious to a computer. You might have been making a purchase for a bill that's not even in the system yet. It might be the third purchase you've made that's going to go towards a retainer. Guys, this is complex accounting
Yeah.
that you have to have a conversation with your accounting team to get that right. Now, if all you're doing is what we call cash basis accounting, where you're just doing this stuff in arrears, like you don't care what's coming up in the future, you're just tracking expenses that are happening in the past and you only buy things from like maybe three vendors. Okay, yeah, we could probably that stuff's easy to automate and we could absolutely knock that out easy. But most companies on the planet, they have more of a variety of places they're purchasing things and buying things from. And so, we show up in that relationship as a human to help get through that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You still need the human in all of this, and I think until the end of time, honestly. But you mentioned you need professional input to get professional output. And with that, just it comes down to the person and the strategy. And one of the strongest trends that we noticed in the report was that 75% of finance team had already reallocated their staff to just higher value work because of automation. So even though though one of four say they still aren't using their time strategically. And so on top of that, 65% of them were saying, automation has improved our forecast accuracy. It's a great shift from bookkeeping towards strategic advisory work. But in looking at those results and, great numbers, of course, you still need the professional in all of this. You still need the human, and you still need that very high quality input. And so one thing I've seen everywhere is that automation promises to, free accountants from manual work and just, open the door to more roles, maybe advisory ones. And so have you personally seen that shift just happen? Or is this, 10 years down the road type of thing?
No, definitely seeing that now. I mean, we're a bit of an odd duck in the CPA realm because we started off doing fractional CFO work and then added bookkeeping and controllership, and through that you started doing software implementations, excuse me, to support our clients, and then added tax. So we did everything completely opposite to a typical firm. And we used the technology to help us automate the compliance work as much as possible so that we were spending more time on the advisory level work with our clients. We wanted to make sure that we were delivering as much value as possible. And if they're paying, most of their fees towards bookkeeping, it's, okay, it has to get done, but like that's not really super valuable for them. So we're looking at tools that we could use to automate everything as much as possible so that we could spend more time helping them grow their business. That was really our MO back in the day, and it still is today. So yes, the tools are definitely helping us to spend more time on advisory. I think what's challenging though is like back in the day, like 10 years ago, we would wow the socks off of our clients by, getting them onto cloud accounting software, like just getting them onto QuickBooks Online. And they're like, wow, I can actually go online and see what you're working on at the same time. Because back, people would have their desktop file at their accountant's office and then get reports sent to them whenever they felt like it, but not necessarily often enough. But they couldn't see real time what was happening. They couldn't check in and see with, how things were looking. And so that was magic enough. And then, we were also, trying to support them with budgeting and forecasting. And that was all done in like automated tools, online accessible tools. And that was amazing. What's happened though is, the tools are there to help us make this faster, but as we've progressed, the clients start to see, oh, other things that they would like and other things that we can do to help them. And so their demands on us are a lot higher. So it's not like we're just sitting back, filling up our Rolodex with more client work. Every single one of our clients is demanding more from us than they used to because they can see the possibilities there, right? So before just getting the reports to them on a regular basis was like a big deal because that wasn't happening for a lot of people. And now it's like rolling the forecast forward for the third time this month because they've got another scenario. They had an epiphany in the middle of the night and now they want to know yada yada. So they want to spend more time with us, which I think is an amazing sign to where the industry is heading. All of that I'm saying right now, I'm not complaining at all. These are all fabulous, fabulous things that are shifting in our industry. And if I could get on a soapbox for 2 seconds, the role of the accountant really for thousands of years was to be a pedagogue to the business owner to, help them, guide them, and support them in their business growth. And we had these amazing, this isn't the first time we've had big changes
Yeah.
in our industry over the years. Um, Accounting predates written text. That's all I'm going to say on that one. It's very
Yeah.
cool. If you want to nerd out on me on that, please reach out. But when we got to double entry accounting, it was a need. It came out of a need to be able to help merchants with multiple entities to be able to make sense of their total worth. And so that's where we really that was our last kind of big, huge shift in the accounting industry to help support these business owners and help them make sense of what's happening with their numbers. And unfortunately, after the wars last century, everything got so focused on compliance work that our role became all about reporting, reporting, reporting to external bodies. And that hasn't been helping the business owners. And so everything was about fear and getting into trouble with the IRS or with the CRA in Canada and everything about, reporting to external bodies and not about helping the companies grow. And what we're seeing in the last decade here is these business owners they're constantly coming to us and I'm sure other firms that are like us saying, I just need more help. I'm not getting help from my accountant. I'm not getting help from my bookkeeper. I'm just getting reports. I don't know what they mean. I just need some business support. And that's really what our role was supposed to be. And now we're coming back into that role again, which is really exciting. So the fact that people want to spend time with their accountant I think is a really good thing because we can help them then, and then we can help the economy to thrive by helping each and every one of these business owners to do to be as successful as they can be in their chosen field. I'm off my soapbox
Love
now.
that. No, that's great. I love the history of that too. It's exactly where it came from. We went into World War, yeah, one, I think it was, and all of a sudden taxes were implemented, something that
Yeah.
America like,
Temporary
yeah,
measures.
temporary measures. And then for the last 100 years, it's been accountants just there to do my tax return.
Yeah.
That was never the thing. There's still a business to run, and there's an incredible business owner under that came to the Americas to start free commerce, and
Yeah.
we're the ally to that. We are the ally to that. And, we help, I don't know, for me, I'm helping more small business than big business these days, I think, because that's where I'm needed. That's where my team is needed.
Yeah.
So, is it easier now to give that advice? We've been chomping at the bit to give our clients advice. What's hard is when they come to us and they just want to get a tax return done or they just want to get bookkeeping done. I used to say for years, I'm kind of like,
a CFO masquerading as a bookkeeper so I can get in the door.
Yeah.
I want to really help my clients. So, we can't do it without great organized data and great bookkeeping. You got to have that to get to the higher levels of understanding in finance.
Mhm.
And yes, compliance is a thing. Will help guide you through the waters of endless compliance that's never ending. But that's an afterthought. That's not why I get up in the morning. I get up in the morning to help a business owner, forecast something, see something on the horizon, be able to seek an opportunity maybe they couldn't see before. Because I mean, who's got time to learn
Yeah.
what Helena and I have learned in our whole lifetimes,
Yeah,
guys?
no.
You gotta, I think there's this. Unfortunately, people think because there's AI, it's going to be oh so easy for me to just take all that stuff on. It still takes time. It still takes cross-check. I've trained I don't know how many people to work on my team. Not everybody can do this stuff. Not everybody has a high enough detail to manage a robot that also has high detail. So
Yeah.
you're looking for the right people, the right tools. And then, yes, if you can implement, I mean, I get up in the morning to find business owners that are like, I just need somebody that's better at this than me, that I can trust, who has a team of humans, who's also empowered by automation and technology
Yeah.
to implement, workflows and efficiency systems because I know this has got to be easier than me doing it. I know this has got to be easier. And you're right, it is for people like us. Absolutely, it's easier for us. And so we can then, if we can implement great automation tools, we can get to the stuff we really want to talk about, which is your business, where we think it should go,
Yeah.
and where you might want to course correct because it's not going in the direction you want it to go.
Sure. I just
No,
want to share with you a message from Janos here saying AI expectations are mainly based on movies, particularly AI sci-fi and horror movies. And given it's
Yeah,
Halloween tomorrow, I think that's a very
right.
topical comment. It's very true. I mean, I would love for it to be super automated, but we're just not there yet. It's we're working through the motions here.
We're working. And I would even say to that, even if let's just say there is a place where it's 100% automated. Humans are slow to adapt to tools
Yes.
they have access to,
We still have people on
okay?
desktop, right?
A
And
lot of people on desktop, a lot of people don't know what they don't know. And then here's the next thing. If it's all automated, you really gonna put a robot in charge of your logins to all of your stuff?
I don't know.
All your sensitive stuff, you're gonna give them access to that? That's a gut check, right? That's that human check. So what they were saying, I was watching this one guy say, we've had video phone technology since the 70s. Like only in the 2000s when Steve Jobs invented the iPhone, did the public awareness start to realize we've had this technology.
Yeah.
So, at some point, I think it's just more about is it accessible? Is it going to be affordable, accessible? And the sad reality is it's actually been affordable and accessible for a long time. And, we've all known how you can get a healthy body. It's basically the same recipe of less calories and more exercise. And yet, even with that knowledge, we don't all have the kind of health we want. So sometimes it's not an information problem. Sometimes it really just is a habit and an
Yeah.
accountability problem. You don't have a human in your life holding you accountable to do what you do. And that word's in our title. It's what we do as accountants. We hold people accountable to their own goals and dreams.
Yeah.
And a robot's not going to do that
I
yet.
what a great point to end on, honestly, with that whole thing. Just the accountability. It's a very big thing, especially within accounting. And you, uh, the history lesson, great points, honestly. Um, but you touched a little bit, actually, a lot of it, on the challenges in adopting this, AI automation, not just for accountants, but for clients, we have a hard time adapting. And so, it's despite all this progress that we've had with automation and AI, adoption clearly and still isn't very seamless. And, we found that 80% of accountants in the report said that they're just completely overwhelmed by the number of AI and automation tools available, and I can completely understand that. And 62% said they faced integration issues, which human error technically at the end of the day, on both ends. And so also, 25% of teams said that they're just investing in employee training. So the gap wasn't adoption, it was just enablement of the actual products. And so we found that while AI adoption is growing very quickly with the general public, the training and integration still lags behind quite a bit. And I think it's across all industries, not even the accounting. And so clearly you both have a lot of experience with these tools. And what are the biggest barriers you're seeing? Is it, tool overload, integration issues, or just resistance from your staff and your clients? And is there any, you know, how do you help overcome those challenges? Whether it's,
I think there's a couple of things going on. So first of all, um, I'm not a typical accountant in my career progression, but for a typical accountant, you don't spend a lot of time in your university degree learning about software selection and implementation, but that's become a huge part of our job. The role of the CFO is supposed to be the right-hand person to the CEO. So if something happens to the CEO, the CFO can jump in and take over, which means that the CFO needs to have understanding of HR, marketing, IT systems, sales, operations, all those sorts of things. And there's a kind of a trend in the industry to move to a kind of a new role for the CFO as the total asset management role. So you're really there to help oversee all of the assets, human and otherwise, of the organization. I think, unfortunately, though, in business school, a lot of times when you're going the accounting route, you're only learning about finance. And so you don't actually understand the rest of an organization. You're not understanding business. A CFO needs to understand business, an accountant needs to understand accounting. But how do you go from being an accountant understanding accounting with very limited understanding of the rest of the business to being a CFO? It's a very difficult trajectory for most folks. So we have a massive gap in our education system right now, because we're still training accountants as if it's the 1980s. They're still training accountants how to do bookkeeping on desktop software right now in 2025. And so they're coming out of university and they have no clue about any of the tools that we use. They don't understand, they hear talk of AI, but they don't actually use the tools. They don't understand how to use them. They don't understand how to use them correctly. And so it's really left to industry to just deal with the problem. And the CPA programs in both countries that I know of, and I'm sure in other places of the world, are also not jumping in. They're publishing articles about AI in our magazines now, which is incredible. And great. That's not helping us with our training program that does nothing to help support them for the real world. There's no consideration for security, uh, or anything else that we have to deal with. And so you've got all of this onus sitting on these business owners who are very busy, trying to support companies, to now fix this massive training gap that we have in our industry. A lot of people still, like both Canada and the US are seeing massive decreases in CPA enrollment right now, and that's because the idea is that your job as a CPA is to go work at the Big Four and be this cog in this machine and audit. Well, audit is the easiest place to automate and in all of our areas of accounting. And I've seen tools out there that are starting to work to automate most of the audit work. So that's not where we should be sending people, because the industry is changing, but that's what people still think that we do as accountants, and that's just not true. And so there's an education gap in the market, from what we actually do. I think what we do is actually pretty cool. I tell my kids this all the time. They don't believe me, but and then with the CPA program and our schools are not supporting them to be in a good position to jump into these roles. So when we have folks coming into companies, I mean, I can't hire someone fresh out of university very easily because I don't have time for the amount of training that they need. I just don't. So I need them to go out there and get trained up somewhere else. And that is going to be either really good training, awesome for me, or very poorly trained, and now I can't really fix the training issue. And so it's always a bit of a 50-50 chance that someone's going to come and be successful in this world because we're doing them a disservice, to be honest with you. And so when it comes to adoption, okay, so Andrea and I have been at this for a while. We're obviously cloud nerds and automation nerds, okay? But if you're not and you're a more traditional type of accountant and now you've got to deal with, okay, this isn't my domain of expertise. This is not something that I do on a regular basis. And now I have to be the champion for it and work with the rest of my team who are also not domain expertise and get everyone on board with something that none of us are really comfortable with. It's a hard challenge, right? I was, I guess, blessed or cursed in that all my previous jobs before I became an entrepreneur, I kept getting thrown into software selection implementation projects everywhere I went. It was like this curse that I had, and it was like, we're going to change this system. Helina, you're in charge. I was like, why does this keep happening to me? But it was perfect because it made it easy for me to run Entreflow. That doesn't happen to most people. And so, now you take folks that have been running their firms for like 20 years and they're like ready to like retire in, 15, 20 years or so, going, okay, I'm going to change my whole way my company works. That's a big deal. So it's the thing though that everyone needs to understand is that just like I said, from an advisory standpoint, our clients are demanding more from us. Our clients are now very often coming to us on cloud, right? So the market is demanding cloud, the market is demanding automation. So it's gone from being a nice to have, this is cool. We were leading the way for our clients, and now the clients are already ahead of a lot of firms now. And so it's going to be difficult for people if they don't get on board with some level of change to be able to service their clients if the market is demanding that we use automation tools. I can't believe it. I have so many clients that come to me now who are using our entire tech stack. I mean, that didn't happen even like 4 years ago. And they're like, yeah, we're using no, 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 no. I'm like, perfect. Okay, we don't have to set anything up. This is awesome. Whereas, 10 years ago, I had to explain every single app and they were all concerned about, well, how much am I paying for this? And you're like, do you want to pay for us to bookkeep manually instead? I don't know. I don't think you do. So it's, the adoption is, it's gonna, there's gonna have to be a certain level of adoption that everyone's gonna have to cope with. We're not sitting around using rotary phones anymore. We all had to adopt with the phone changes. It's just part and I think that it's one of those things, though, that I would urge people, if this is something that you're just like, this is not my bag, there are so many people out there that can help you do this. So you could have, someone like Andrea come in and help you with your digital transformation, or somebody else that or nominate somebody on your team who's actually really lit up by technology. There's this audit firm that I know very well. We work with a lot of the same clients. And they had a staff member who was like super excited about cloud, but nobody else was. And so they really let him take charge there, start to slowly work through the clients and get them converted, get some help when he needed it, and be that champion because it was exciting for him and it wasn't exciting for everybody else. And over time, everyone kind of saw the benefits. And it didn't have to be the partners being the experts. It was, leaning into the skill set and the excitement from other people. But yeah, so
I
I
love
guess I
that.
had a
Yeah.
lot to say on adoption. I'm going to pass it over to Andrea.
We love this stuff. We're passionate about this. I love it. Yeah, I would say for adoption, it's still the same a difficult lift as it's been. I think one of the hardest things is with all the online automation and ability to API and connection, there just still is so many places we can't connect, either because of what Helena was saying. We're not being seen as the CFO that should be involved in HR, technology, project management, operations. We're still being put in this tiny little piece of, well, don't you just get the financial done for the CPA at your end? And I think it's that's what's getting in the way of adoption to a lot of technology is we need to be around the table when you are talking about workflow for your entire company. When you are
Yeah.
talking about integrating everything, who better to be entrusting your most sensitive information than the people who have almost an advanced directive to keep your information safe? I mean, we
Yeah.
as bookkeepers and accountants are taught from day one to say that all we have is trust. All we have with our client is trust. So if they're going to entrust you with the bank account and the sensitive information, that is something we hold so dear to our heart. So why aren't we at the table when it's time to integrate technology and talk about
better efficiency processes in the business, we absolutely should be there. So sometimes adoption is not happening because we're just not invited to the room.
Mm.
I think a lot of business owners don't know the capabilities we've had in this industry for business for so long. And maybe it is because their accountant or bookkeeper doesn't have those skills. Maybe they are only getting, baseline. But I mean, I know today it's the same thing for me, Elena. Like my business owners that are coming to me for help, they want more. They're expecting more. And I think that's great that we can show up that way in order to implement. I think the things that get in the way is maybe this starty stop desire to maybe see it through, or we're just still running into, you might have a lot of intelligence over here. One person might really know how to do the accounting and or integration tool, but they don't really have an intelligence upstream about what's going on in the business, what's creating the bottleneck, how to get that connection, and we don't have access. So again, I think it's a shift of mindset to transparency. Obviously, you still want to have us keep the sensitive data sensitive. And I think if businesses aren't taking enough time to really invest in their organizational chart, the true roles and responsibilities for their team, it becomes very difficult to figure out what data access people should have.
Yeah.
But if you start at the top, hey, if you lost all of these lower level people, who should have keys to the kingdom to help you get back on track? Your financial people, they're going to be there. They're part of the succession planning. So if you're thinking about, how to structure your business, you really got to think about how the data flows through those structures as well. And if you haven't, I think the tendency is to act like the government and to just compartmentalize all the data. And you see how efficient they are. Not. So if you are afraid of your data leaking to the wrong people within your own organization, I think that just means you need to take a step back and do a better job of, thinking about how your information should be organized, what people should be doing what, and are you making sure that the financial people are part of these discussions? And I think that gets in the way of implementation a lot more than most business owners would recognize, because you can't delegate if somebody isn't trusted and has access to take it on. Like you can't just delegate something. So a lot of this, these efficiency tools of data flow, the human that's overseeing it, they got to have the ability to have access to that info. You got to be able to trust them.
Okay, yeah. Interesting insights, honestly, because when I asked that question, I was expecting to hear, there's so many integration issues. I was it's very interesting to hear about the education gap and the issues with trust when it comes to automation and just all the tools and everything like that. So yeah, I'm wondering if, in the future things will get better with the education. I really hope so. Very integral part of the accounting industry for sure. And speaking of education and people's futures, the last point I want to touch on is, just the future of AI in accounting or automation, a little bit of both, because we found, 92% of finance leaders, they plan to increase the automation that they used this year going into the next year. And, the ROI was very clear, over 85% said that automation and software, they deliver the best returns in accounting. They outpace outsourcing. And, the question isn't really if AI will change accounting. I think that's very set in stone for the most part, but it's just a matter of, how fast. And so do you think AI is going to play a big role in changing how the accounting professionals, work over the next, 1 to 2 years? In 2 years, it's going to be like, whoa, things are different now. And kind of playing off of that, are there any emerging trends or just, opportunities you're excited, maybe even cautious about, as it always comes to with artificial intelligence?
For sure. I mean, I think, like I mentioned before, a lot of the apps that we use are starting to embed a lot of AI functionality into them. So I see that really augmenting a lot in the next couple of years because it's created a different level of competition on the market. I think that there's AI for AI's sake that's thrown around a lot, where people are using, throwing AI, or we're doing AI, but there isn't really much. It's got a little bit fluff at the moment. Well, maybe it'll get there eventually, but there are some people that are some apps that are doing some really cool things with AI. There are going to, when they are kind of fully baked and ready to go, make some good impact for people, and get people thinking about, especially, where you've got insights happening. I think that's really helping accountants to think more about the businesses that they're looking at, and then do new and different ways. I was a financial analyst. Not everyone has an analyst brain, right? So if you're more of like a full cycle kind of brain, it's great to have those insights there to help you point to maybe changes, or things that are happening in the business a little bit easier, so that you can help to provide some insight back to the client, or dig into things that maybe that should be dug into. So I think we're going to see over the next couple of years there's a lot of investment right now in AI. And so all of the tools that we use, I think, are going to have much more functionality in that space, they're just going to really up the ante on what they can do, and the value that they can provide to us. We might see some fee increases with that, given the investment that they're putting in there. But yeah, I'm not sure if we're on the precipice yet of a big, massive, huge shift, kind of like we had with the Dex and HubDocs of the world coming in. That just completely changed everybody's day-to-day workflow. I'm not sure if in 2 years we're going to see that level of shift. It would be great. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit of a slow, steady space for the next little bit, and then something might pop after that, would be my prediction. Over to you, Andrea.
Yeah, I could totally agree with that. I think there's still a big gap. I think for those early adapters right now, yeah, you're going to see a very different accountant show up in your world, which is great. We've been wanting to show up that way. But I
Yeah.
think there's still a big group of business that are going to see a slower change, because, it's just going to be a slower adaptation. But I do think that the role, I think when let's go fast forward 10, 15 years in the future, I do think that accountants are going to show up as more of this very extreme trusted advisor, because we're the ones being entrusted with managing the AI.
Mm,
Okay. We're the ones being entrusted to manage people on our team using AI and trying to find that human goal. Just because we have technology, that doesn't necessarily build our dreams as humans. I think our job is going to be a lot more of this: is my trusted accountant advisor helping me actually connect the dots between what I'm doing and what I want, because I can trust them. I can
yeah.
really trust that they're overseeing this and they have my best interests in mind. And everybody that's using these automation and AI tools, that there's a human component there, and that I can trust these people using these tools, and that the alignment's going to be a lot more on, hey, what's the goal? I think that we're going to be asking deeper questions. We're going to become more, business coaching advisors, because we can be trusted to do that. And I think that's something that I think everybody that's in the bookkeeping, accounting, CFO space, tax space, I think that's what we should be going towards. They did a study, I know Value Builder did a study on when business owners want to like sell their business or have any sort of like major, business change, that they have a big question about, who do these people turn to get that advice? And across the board, hands down, it's always the accountant.
Mm,
We are the trusted advisor, and I think the most important thing we're going to go towards and turn into is that caring, trusted human that is managing the goals and dreams and desires of the business owner. I
yeah.
think that's where we're going. And yeah, you got to know tech, but even I think you still probably have 10 years to do it the way it's being done. And you will struggle with that. You're gonna, but I think we are being called to be better. I think, we're just all being called to kind of become better people, because now we
Yeah.
got better tools. And I like it because, I can finally have conversations that I couldn't have, 5 years ago, because people would be afraid. A lot of times people would come to a meeting and they'd be afraid to ask certain questions because they just were really hard on
Yeah.
themselves about not knowing the answer, right? And, we're sitting there trying to explain kind of pretty, concepts to us that are easy for us to understand because we've been doing this forever. And I think now a business owner can go into ChatGPT, become dangerous, ask a lot of good leading questions, learn a lot, and then they can come to us and we can have a really great conversation with it. The sad thing is that when people get too dangerous and then they just go act on that advice and they don't get that last 20% from a pro and they get the wrong advice and they do something crazy and they don't have somebody to help them connect the dots with all this. So
Yeah.
I think it is great. I think it's leveling everybody up, but I think it is calling us to be just more caring and trusted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like the title of this webinar, can you trust AI with your books? And I think we've learned that, trust professionals who know how to use the tools that have AI and automation um, to just help you with your books. So on that note, oh, we do have a question from someone in the Q&A. What is the suggestion from traditional CPA firms to enable any AI tools? And by the way, everyone, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Um, we'll get to them.
Yeah, for that one, I mean, I think if you're at a traditional CPA firm and you're AI curious and you're not quite there yet, I mean, I think I would start small. Like, don't overwhelm yourself. Um, if you like the easiest low-hanging fruit that's going to deliver the most value right now is making sure your clients are on cloud technology, like cloud accounting software. So if you still have people on desktop, um, then I'd get them onto QuickBooks Online or Xero or another, cloud accounting software. That's going to make things a lot easier for you. You kind of need that as your core in order for these other tools to work. Okay. And then from there, look at the Dex or Hub Docs out there, other other OCR tools to help automate the bookkeeping as much as possible if you're a CPA firm that does bookkeeping. Even if you're a CPA firm that just does tax, we've been doing tax since 2018, cloud only. So we were like really pushing the limits of some of the tax software when we started, but I was determined that we were not going to use desktop software for tax. And so just being able to have, our clients' books QuickBooks or Xero or what have you, integrated with our Talent to be able to bring in all the data. That saves us a lot of time being able to export things back out to the books and get those adjusting journal entries in. Saves us a whole lot of time too. So even if you're a tax firm, there's still benefit to having your clients on cloud technology as well. And just I would probably just start there, and you're going to get an immense amount of value just in those two steps. If you're already there, then I'd say, if you're using, cloud accounting, but you're not using an OCR tool like Dexter or HubDoc, get on that. That's going to save you loads of time right away. And then if you're already there, then start looking at some of the reporting tools out there. And some of the querying tools that will help you with insights into what's happening in your clients' books. Those are, again, pretty easy tools to implement. You just connect it to your accounting software, and then you can, get better insight into the book. Like some of them, like for Fathom, for instance, we've been using Fathom since 2017. I have live in a webinar set up Fathom for folks, and I've also done that with Cashflow Frog. It's an amazing application for short-term cash flow forecasting. I've set that up live in webinars in like 5-10 minutes. They're so easy to set up once you kind of done it once or twice. So we're not talking about like 6 months, long implementation projects. A lot of these tools are kind of cheap and cheerful, easy to use. They're designed with really good UI because people don't want clunky, yucky software anymore that take forever to put in place. I mean, that's why Synder is so great. It's very easy to connect Synder and get it set up properly and start using it. And it saves you scads of time of having to export and import data from different systems, right? And make better sense of it. So, that would be the trajectory I propose, depending on where you're at in that life cycle. How about you, Andrea?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I think that's really key points. I think because there's so much new software coming out all the time, I think you need to find these accounting groups. We've got a lot of great
Mhm.
accounting social networks right now. A really great one is Realized by Jason Stats. There's a great one I would hail from PASBA, the Professional Association of Small Businesses and Business Accountants. In America, we have chapters in each state, and in each state, you can go get connected with some great accountants and find out the ones, the CPA firms that are in your, like at your level. I know in PASBA, we share our technology stack. We
Mm.
go literally say, this is all the stuff I'm using on my firm. Very transparent because, accountants help accountants. We know that these challenges that are very unique to our industry that have been out there for a long time. And so, the best way you're going to probably get the feedback is from others that are at that same level you have, how many clients, how many staff members, what state you're in, what city you're in. I think if you can rub shoulders with them and start talking about their journey, and they're going to tell you straight, yeah, I found this really great tech stack, but it took me a while. I mean, I nerded out to the point that I've spent a small fortune trying everything, right? And I wish I would be able to go back in time and just talk to some people who have, some of the things that are working for them now, but it just comes from trial and error of doing a lot of this. For me, the game changer was the practice management tool. Like I guess because I was an early adapter with QuickBooks Online and the HubDocs, the OCR technology. So if you've made that jump, like Helena was saying, if you can at least get into online, you can start using these tools. I think one of the biggest game changers will be picking the right practice management tool that gives you, the ability to help the client with tools of client portal there, but more internally helping you with workflow setup and all that. And a lot of these tools answer a lot of the questions. They have a lot of additional tools you're not going to have to buy separately, like a tool actually connects to QuickBooks and pulls in the uncategorized transactions. So my clients get to log into one place, see their to-dos, sign their e-signatures, do questionnaires, and answer questions about uncategorized transactions without having to bounce all over the place.
Yeah.
So I think, those tools, though, take longer to set up. So sometimes you just need to get something that works really well right now, get you to the next step, get you to the next step, and find the other CPAs that have what you want. You know, talk about their journey, get some real talk from them about, we tried this, we tried that, and then we found this. We had a struggle, but now we're here and it's helping. We have these efficiencies now in place. So I really think it's us. We got to keep talking more about what we're finding and what's working. You don't want to talk to somebody who doesn't have what you want. If they're in the wrong industry or whatever, they might give you tools that aren't going to work for you. So I think it's more of this, and I think it's more of finding the other accountants in our space that have done a lot of research on this stuff. You can call me, you can talk to me. I've
Yeah, me
I've,
too.
I've spent the money if you'd like. And
Save you the
I'm
money.
happy to. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely baby steps for a lot of things when it comes to accounting and all of that. And I don't see any more questions in the chat. If there are no more, then that brings us to the end of today's webinar. And I want to say thank you to everyone who joined us today. And of course, a huge thank you to our incredible guests, Helina and Andrea, for sharing their insights. And as promised, as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, there is a code in the chat. It's for a 150 Synder credit bonus. The access code webinar 150. To redeem it, you just contact our team. It's also in the chat, or you can click anywhere on our website and you'll find someone to talk to in 2 seconds. You can apply it towards RevRec, Syncs, or any other feature that equals that amount. And no worries, there's a 15-day free trial for select plans, so no commitment on your end at all. And our slogan is machine accuracy, human approach. So with that being said, we hope you found today's session valuable and that the 2025 AI Trends in Accounting Report gives you even more insight as you navigate automation and AI in your work. And thank you once again for joining us, and we wish you a wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
See you out
you.
there. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a lovely day.